This is WFYI News Now. It's August 1st, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, the state's first hospital-linked violence prevention program. Mike Braun adjusts his property tax reform proposal days after he unveiled it. And an overhaul of the Indianapolis Housing Agency is underway after years of dysfunction and mismanagement.
There have been issues with receiving the correct payments for landlords, and this is the first phase to reconcile.
Those stories coming up, but first, Indiana's colleges and universities have raised alarms over the state's overhaul of high school diplomas in a series of letters. Various state university presidents and administrators are calling for a reconsideration of the proposed graduation requirements. Some say the proposed diplomas will limit students and not prepare them for higher education. IU and Purdue's admission requirements would not be met under the current draft. So far, other universities in the state have joined Purdue and Southern Indiana and gave feedback, including Indiana University, Indiana State University, Ball State University, and Vincennes University. The Education Department sought revisions to the initial plan for diplomas this spring. That first wave of public comment closed on Tuesday. The department will bring a revised draft of these diplomas in August. To read more, including digital copies of the actual letters, visit WFYI.org. People who are involved in gun violence are at a significantly high risk of hospital readmission for violent injuries, many of which are more severe than the initial incident. Side Effects Public Media's Elizabeth Gabriel reports on the state's first hospital-linked violence prevention program.
The initiative is a collaboration between the local nonprofit Indy Peace and IU Health Methodist Hospital. Nurses and life coaches work with victims and people who have committed gun violence to connect them with long-term wraparound services. That includes food, housing, and mental health support. The goal is to interrupt the cycle of violence and retaliation in the community. The program began roughly 4 months ago. Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett says it's already working.
We are reaching more people than ever. We are connecting them to the resources they need to lead peaceful and fulfilling lives.
Community members can anonymously recommend people for the program through the Indy Peace website. Elizabeth Gabriel, Side Effects Public Media.
This program announcement comes months after United States Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy declared firearm violence as a public health crisis. Republican gubernatorial candidate Mike Braun is adjusting his property tax reform proposal just days after he unveiled it. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports Braun is responding to criticism over the plan's uneven impact.
Braun's original proposal made major changes to the homestead deductions used to calculate property tax bills. Braun said it would reset everyone's bills to 2021 levels. But that wasn't true. For homes with values of at least $125,000, homeowners paying a tax rate of about 2.5% or more wouldn't see any savings under Braun's plan. And in Indiana's 10 most populous counties, which account for half the state's population, more than half of the tax districts had rates above 2.5%. So now, Braun says homeowners' tax bills would reduce to either what they paid in 2021 or the new calculation in his plan, whichever is lower. Still no word what the proposal would cost local governments, as property taxes largely pay for schools, police, and fire departments. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Brandon Smith at the State House.
And for our final story today, an overhaul of the Indianapolis Housing Agency is underway. As WFYI's Jill Sheridan reports, the work to improve operations will start with basic record reconciliation.
This past spring, the federal government stepped in after years of dysfunction and mismanagement at IHA. The agency is responsible for providing housing for low-income residents in Marion County. Senior policy advisor to the mayor, Erin Schounts, serves as a recovery monitor for the city. She says the first phase of work is to make sure landlords' information is current and that they're being paid.
there have been issues with receiving the correct payment for landlords, and this is the first phase to reconcile.
A system outage from a cyber attack this year resulted in data loss that IHA has not been able to recover. A new online form will be sent to landlords currently in the IHA system and ask for up-to-date payment information for housing assistance paid through federal housing vouchers. I'm Jill Sheridan.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share. And follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.